Hi, I'm Marty Schupak. Welcome to Schupak Sports. And please subscribe if you can and let your league or team know. This is T-ball practice template number 17. I might have missed a number. It could be 16 or 17. I think it's 17. And we're going to go over some number of drills. I'm going to give you some subtle hints about coaching. And also at the end, I'm going to give you some advanced tips on hitting because I've been getting a lot of emails on that. Let's get started right away. I'm going to go through these drills. I'll hold it up close. This first drill is called the scoop ball drill. Okay, what we're doing here is we're performing a fielding task with what I call creative prop. We're taking an empty gallon milk container, plastic, and we're cutting off the end of it. And I'm going to show you a sample. I happen to bring one in there. And this is going to take the place of a glove. And we're going to toss in either a rag ball or a wiffle ball. So I came across one of the old ones that I used to use when I coached T-ball. This is the container. I took a utility knife, cut off the bottom, I guess, third, but you have to take duct tape and line this. Otherwise, there's a potential of getting cut. It is pretty sharp. All right. I would do this with two. I would have one, and players in my team or my son and daughter would have one also. And I did this a few times. It works pretty well. It just gives them a different feel. Though it's not a glove, it's the same eye-hand coordination as catching. And again, kids love props, and it's going to stimulate them too. You could, if you really want to do a deeper dive, you could work yourself down to a half a gallon, make it more challenging. So that's the scoop ball drill. Next is called the 1 bounce, 2 bounce drill. Okay. And what I'm doing in this is I'm combining motor skills with instruction and thought process, listening also. I'm taking a rubber ball or a tennis ball, and what I'm doing is I'm against the wall. I did this on my driveway. If your driveway has a higher wall, you could do it there. And when I throw it, I'm yelling out either 1, 2, or sometimes even 3. And the player or your son and daughter has to think about the instruction and has to try to either catch the ball. So if I yell out 2 or you yell out 2, after the second bounce, they have to wait for that bounce on the instruction. It's very hard for really young kids, but you could try it 4, 5, and 6. Now, it's very important too that you have to understand if they can't catch it, and this picture shows a player with the glove, I would try it barehanded. But if they can't catch the ball, just have them swat it away. Again, it's a challenge. Kids like this, and it's a good drill. You could use a tennis ball there. Keep in mind also, and I say it all the time, there's a huge difference on skill level between different kids. They progress at different paces, all right? So this is the 1 bounce, 2 bounce drill. Next drill is very similar. It's called the high bounce drill. And usually I do this, I take a Spalding. It works better than a tennis ball, I think. You get more height, but you could do both. And all I do, and I do it on the driveway or a blacktop at the school with my team, I bounce the ball up. Same thing, I yell 1, 2, or 3. And the player has to catch it on whatever I yelled out after it. So if I yell out 2 and it bounces twice, he's got to catch it after the second bounce. Okay. And again, if players can't do this, they could swat the ball away. If you want to give them a glove to do it, have them wear their glove. I like to have them do it barehanded. And the benefit is they're seeing a ball come down at a different angle. And I want to mention too, if you just get involved in T-ball, or you have kids that are T-ball age and you love baseball or softball and you think that they can continue playing, don't overdo the competitiveness. You have to put fun into the activity. And I like to say that in T-ball or with young kids, fun is the oxygen for stimulating for young kids. I'll repeat that. Fun is the oxygen to stimulate young kids, okay? And don't overestimate fun. I could tell you a story. I've told it before that I am a big NFL fan, and I go out to a lot of the preseason practices. I was at one on the East Coast, and I'm telling you, it was about 102 degrees. The players were dripping. This is like 25, 30 years ago, and they were spent. And what the head coach did, he was a famous head coach. He had the assistants come out with ice cream pops or icicles, and then he divided the linemen by offense and defense. And 5-on-5, they played a touch football game. And whoever lost those skill positions, like if the offense won, the running backs, quarterback, wide receivers would have to run a lap, and so would the offensive coaches. And I'm telling you, as spent as they were, because it was that hot, because the coach saw the importance of adding some fun, they were whooping it up like you wouldn't believe. All of a sudden, they got some extra energy. It's amazing how the mind works. So keep that in mind, and you always want to have fun. The next drill, what I call, and the picture doesn't do justice to the drill, it's a run, and I call it a pivot throwing drill. And all I'm doing here is I'm combining movement, and the player has to run to the ball and pick it up, pivot, and throw. Okay? Keep in mind, too, the ball is still, and you don't want to do this very early in the season. And you don't want to do it as a competition. And if you're doing another drill, whenever you have a throwing drill, make sure you space out the kids, use soft covered balls. And the thing I like to recommend, and I can't find my pointer, so I usually have a baseball bat, but today I use a pencil. What I like to recommend, and they could do it into space, or they could do it against the fence if your league allows it with soft covered balls. If you're doing it into space, all against the fence, I like to put a cone there. Reason being, they're not going to hit it 9 out of 10 times. They might get lucky, but because it's a cone as a focal point, it helps steady the head of the young T-ball player, 4, 5, or 6, so they won't throw wildly. Okay, so that's the run and pivot throwing drill. You're just going to separate balls, and they run, they pick up one, they turn around and throw it, go to the next one, turn around, throw it, and so on and so forth. Safety is the most important thing. Remember that. The next drill, it's just barehanded drill. And I'm doing it. The reason I like to do barehanded drill, I like to get players to get in the habit of moving their feet. All right. I find that a lot of young kids, if their parents go out and buy a $200 and $300 glove, sometimes they'll just stick out the glove, and they think because they got an expensive glove, the ball's going to go into it. Life doesn't work like that. It doesn't work where you give a surgeon the best scalpel in the world, and he automatically becomes a great surgeon. You got to work at it. So what I like to do is the barehanded drill, I do it on the fly and on the ground. And at first you could do it with their stationary, and then you want to have them moving like side to side. Again, we got to get players used to moving their feet when they're very young. So it's the barehanded fielding drill. You want to try it, do it with soft cover balls. You could set it up any way you want. Okay, and this is something I did once, and it worked when I was a T-ball coach. Okay, it's what I call it is the bucket up drill. I took a empty 5-gallon bucket, and I put it over a batting tee. And then I used, and I can't remember, I did it so long ago, either fishing twine or rope underneath the bucket here, and I attached some bells. then I had the players not in a circle, kind of a half circle. If they're in a circle, they could hit each other. And they each have like, I don't know, 5 balls, and they pick them up and try to hit the bucket and hear the bells. Just the fact that they hear the bells. I don't know why it was pretty popular with my team and a couple of other teams that use the same drill. It was fairly popular. So again, you don't need the bells. The bells just add something if you're a creative person, and it's a lot of fun for the young kids. Okay, so that's the bucket up bell drill, and I want to go over some batting advanced tips. I call it advanced, not that it's advanced batting tips, but you're in T-ball. Some of you parents want a little more. I know you're over enthusiastic, so I'll go over just a couple of things that I find that are basic. And you know, a lot of you parents are going to go to the local batting cage and pay the $85, $125 for a 45-minute lesson. That's up to you. You know, you want to budget it. You want to investigate who's teaching you. The one thing I'll say is I don't want people to think because they're in a not the best financial situation, it could stagnate the athletic growth or even scholastic growth of your kids. It really won't. And I'll give you a quick story. Sparky Anderson was an old-time manager of the Cincinnati Reds, the Big Red Machine. Then he was a manager of the Detroit Tigers. He was speaking at a clinic with literally about 1,500 people there. And he was going over different things, and they had a question and answer session, and a woman who was visibly upset put up her hand, and she said, "Coach, I'm a single mom. My son is a sophomore in high school. I'm told he has incredible talent, but I can't afford these showcases at $500, $600, $700, $800. And I just feel like I might be stagnating his future if he is a really good ball player. So I don't know what to do." And Sparky Anderson looked at her and he said, "Ma'am, let me tell you something. If your son is very talented, you could lock him up in his room till he's 18 years old and we'll find him." So the bottom line is, don't feel you have to buy the best bats, the best bag, the best gloves, go to the best showcases when they're older. I know they're in T-ball now. Just have them do the activity, diversify. You don't want to have too much of the same activity, especially when they're young. I don't like it that some people think baseball is a 12-month sport. It shouldn't be. You have to have your kids play a second sport. If they're using their body above the waist, maybe soccer is the second sport you want to have them play. And we all get overindulged a lot of times. And I was guilty of this too. But you want to try to diversify the sports. And this will enhance the full growth of your son and your daughter. All right, quickly, a couple of tips when they get older. Batting. All right, if you look at this, you have your players with the bat. Touch the back of the home plate on the opposite side, just so they can reach the ball. Purely common sense, right? And make sure when they do that, they don't move their feet back. All right, that's number one. Number two, as far as hold the bat, a lot of instructors will tell you hold them on the top, the knuckles. When they're really young, it doesn't matter that much. So whatever's comfortable with the young, and then you move on from there. Okay. Now remember that if they are talented and they don't have a great grip, it can stifle the wrist and decelerate the bat control. So eventually you want to grip the bat when they're older with the knuckles aligned with each other on each hand. Okay. When they're young, you don't have to worry about it that much. Okay, I'll show you these two pictures. All right. And you could see, and they say the hands here for this little leaguer is too high. And this is a great hitter. It was Edgar Martinez Jr., one of the all-time great hitters, and his hands were high too. You don't want to teach it. Sometimes, you have a special situation where an athlete will have his hands way too high or his batting stance way too wide, and they're great hitters. But it's like, there's it's a 1 in a million, not a 1 in a million shot, but there's examples of players that don't have the best stance or anything else, and they're good hitters. All right. Now the next is the front foot stepping. All right, we have a picture. Okay, let's see, of Alex Rodriguez, Manny Ramirez, and this one is Bobby Bonilla. These are older ball players. As you see, Manny Ramirez has a higher leg of front foot kick, lifting it up. In my mind, you don't have to go up that high. All right, but you should have some movement. Some players don't lift it now more than like a half an inch, which is okay, but you should have some movement with that front foot. It helps to keep the weight back. All right, a lot of other things also, balance and all that stuff. And I was just talking about players that, are exceptions to the rule. So here's a guy, an older type player, Jeff Bagwell. Now, I recommend the batting stance, the feet should be about shoulder width apart. But look at this Jeff Bagwell, and he was a great hitter. Okay. And I just want to show you the last one is Jose Cruz, an older player. It just shows his foot, and it's like almost vertical to the ground after he hits the ball. So notice his back foot. And when your son or daughter is older playing baseball or softball, see how they swing, and just see how their back foot is naturally before you or the batting coach starts correcting them. And when they're young and if they're hitting the ball, making contact, you have to keep the corrections to a minimal. All right. I am of the belief that a lot of times we overcoach and underteach. When your son and daughter is like 15, 16, 17, or 18, and God bless you and them, if they're that talented and they go for that college scholarship and they have to tweak it, and then you do these little different tweaks, but by God, please don't overcoach. So I'm going to wrap it up. Please, if you can, give me a thumbs up and give me some comments if you could. Please subscribe. And I want to tell you that I started doing an item on the YouTube channel called Friday at 1 Sports Hero. So every Friday at 1 o'clock, a different sports hero will show up for a minute. If you go to the YouTube site, just scroll in the playlist, and if you could sign up for that, I appreciate it. Look for me in really a week or two. I'll be back, and if you're coaching T-ball, get involved, please, and please make it fun. So for Schupak Sports, until next time, I'll meet you at third base.